If you go back and you look at the history of the left, people are killed for being on the left. They're in jail for being on the left. That's what it meant to be a person of the left. It meant making real, material, and mortal sacrifice for a cause. What does it mean now? You go and look at the Judith Butler. In 2020, there's a big announcement. Judith Butler's doing something world historic, right up there with the Paris Commune, the Bolshevik Revolution, the Spanish Civil War. What does she do? She announces that her new pronouns are they, them. Her new pronouns are they, them. Oh, that's a real act of martyrdom. That's Christ being nailed to the cross. It's so laughable what passes now for radical politics. Radical politics is raking in tons and tons and tons of cash. That's radical politics. Ibram X. Kendi gets $10 million from Jack Dorsey. Barack Obama gets $100 million from Jeff Bezos. Van Jones gets $100 million from Jeff Bezos. The Black Lives Matter so-called leadership, they collected $90 million in the year of the George Floyd demonstrations. None of the activists saw one dime of it, but Patrice Cullors, one of the so-called leaders, she goes out and purchases 4 homes. Another of the leaders starts doing commercials for Cadillac. This is a bonanza. This is not sacrifice. This is not what the left used to stand for. It's just making money, grifters. There are grifters making money off of the cause on the one hand, and then there are all these fake radical people pretending they are so cutting edge and so woke because they changed their pronouns or they drool over trans people.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rescue Michigan Weekly live stream. Patty's back. Patty's back, everyone.
I'm back. Couple week hiatus, Easters and things. Yeah.
So that was Norman Finkelstein. For those who don't know, that was obviously on Glenn Greenwald's show earlier this week. And boy, it's a bad week to be an old school leftist, that's for sure. Although it's been a bad 2 years to be an old school leftist, to be fair.
Right.
Because their entire movement's been completely subverted, which, as a conservative, I don't mind all that much, honestly.
Well, someone today was talking about, liberals. I'm like, you got to stop using that term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like really, oh, go blue. Thanks, Richard. Leftists, whatever, progressives, radicals, Marxists, cultural Marxists, whatever you want to call them. But I mean, a real liberal is not what's going on in the left right now, right? The real liberals, like the classic liberal. And anyway.
The terms are always misleading and confusing for people. Like, I hate to, if I want to say I'm a libertarian, there's at least 3 completely incompatible definitions of what a libertarian means.
Yeah.
You might be the cosmotarian type, the Steve Forbes type, the kind who just wants to get the government out of their money.
Regressives, exactly, Tom.
Yeah, and we'll say things like, I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal, as if that's some kind of clever thing. Then you've got the
so I should stop.
Then you've got the left libertarians who are like, there was actually a guy a few months ago I remember hearing about who was like, I'm a MAGA communist. And it's like, these are just hopelessly confused people that really don't get it. And then, there's the Lysander Spooner, Murray Rothbard, Ron Paul libertarians who view the government as their mortal enemy. And that's a completely different thing, that's a distinction that, really separates parts of the left today with the pro-liberty right, is that there's an understanding that the government is not just a problem, it's, a mortal danger for everybody. And there was a big story this week. You guys might have heard about it. The Biden Justice Department just indicted this group of socialist leftists. I don't know all of them were, but the leader, I guess, was this guy O'Malley. Yeshitela. I guess I'm pronouncing that right, I hope, or maybe not. He was the guy that was on the thumbnail for the show tonight. And a couple of people in the right picked up on this story and they understood the significance of it. Tucker Carlson was one. Glenn Beck was the other. In fact, I'll play the clip here because I've got that queued up too. Hold on. This is the clip where Glenn Beck is talking to Glenn Greenwald about it. Here we go.
This is actually a chance for the constitutionalist right to actually stand up and make this an issue, because we have nothing in common with these people. And I don't want anyone silenced, anyone. And this is a chance for us to stand up and do what the press will never do for somebody on the right. They should have stood up with Alex Jones and said, we don't like the guy. We don't like the guy. But he has a right to say what he's going to say. The same thing we should be now doing on this side, because A, it'll just confuse the hell out of them, and it will show that we actually have principles behind what we say.
You have to have principles behind what you say. Otherwise, what it seems like you're saying is just kind of a special pleading for your own allies. And I'm really glad to hear that, because as you know, as well as anybody, Glenn, it is very common for people on the right to be accused of being Russian agents. That is probably the go-to accusation by establishment liberals and kind of the never Trump wing of the Republican Party that accuses everybody who disagrees with them of being a Kremlin agent, of serving the Russian government. And if you now got the Biden Justice Department expand what that means and allow them to turn you into a felon, not just ruin your reputation or ban you from social media, but prosecute you criminally under federal law, that is an extremely dangerous precedent, including for lots of people who have different ideologies than these defendants.
So that was Glenn Beck with Glenn Greenwald, both making excellent points about this whole incident. And I should have probably explained a little bit further what the story was. So yeah, they've been charged with colluding with Russia for violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act for ostensibly taking a trivial amount of money from someone linked to Russia in some way, probably something that, you know, they would have no way of even knowing about. And of course, the Foreign Agents Registration Act is really meant to go after people like Tony Podesta, who take millions of dollars for foreign governments and use it to lobby Congress illegally, not just some random group on the fringe that is, you know, screaming and yelling from the left side about how tyrannical and terrible the Biden regime is. And Glenn Beck makes this point. He says, you know, it's great when we can defend freedom for people who are people we don't agree with, because then it doesn't look like it's just a self-serving thing that our own side does. And Glenn Beck caught this. Tucker Carlson caught this. I haven't seen anybody else on the right talk about this at all this whole week. Have you heard anything from anybody?
Me, no. I've been a little out of the loop this week. So
yeah. Well, I did pass this recommendation on to the Michigan GOP chairwoman and through channels, because I know she's not a big fan of mine, but I suggested to some people, hey, you should pass this along. I don't want credit for it or anything. I just want to see a smart play made. And didn't happen. Doesn't mean it can't happen yet, but you know, it's the kind of thing where this is the issue where as Glenn Beck said, this confuses the opposition. Oh wow, the Republicans are defending the free speech of socialists. That's interesting. Now, if the media wasn't completely controlled, that would be newsworthy, but nonetheless, that's a way to build bridges, to talk about this kind of stuff. But
yeah.
You know, we've got more important things to message on this week, don't we? It's China, and China are the big talking points by the Republicans this week. And I don't know what they think I mean, in any time you're messaging on things, there's usually supposed to be a dual purpose. And ideally, you can do both. You can make a political point and you can get a policy point. What's the political play with the Republicans going after the Democrats on China? You know, as if they're going to claim, oh yeah, the Democrats are totally in bed with China. Well, in this moment, there's never been a time when Democrats are more anti-China than right now, because China's been getting close to Russia, and Russia is, you know, part of their whole big lie about Trump. So now that China's being nice with Russia, now all the Democrats are like, we got to go after China. We got to go after China. And now it's like they're trying to out left the Dems on it. And I don't know. I don't see what the play is there. Tim Kuhn on Facebook says Tucker is having RFK Jr. on his show also. Oh yeah, should we talk about that? I touched on this last week. about RFK Jr. And I guess did he actually announce this week? Is that because
Wednesday I watched the whole thing, 2 hours.
How was it? I didn't see the whole speech. I saw some snippets of it.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it was amazing. It's worth watching. It just reminds me back, like, you know, in 2016 when, you know, I was like, I think Trump's going to win Michigan. And I was flying to Florida that day, and that's when you could still talk to people and everyone wasn't insane, you know? And the people on the plane behind me, I would like eavesdrop in their conversation. I said that, and they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, because Bernie won Michigan.
Yeah.
Hillary didn't win Michigan, right? And there's a lot of overlap between the populist left and the populist right? So, like, I mean, if you listen to RFK, I mean, what do you, as far as his speech, right? Civil liberties, you know, that's huge. It's for everyone except, you know, the radicals right now who don't think anybody should be able to say anything, right? You know, censorship. He obviously didn't talk about Second Amendment. You know, I don't know where he stands on that.
I have a feeling he's not very much for it. But
but I mean, he's a constitutionalist, so I don't know. I guess I don't know. That's the final.
It's one of the things you have to kind of let slide if they're running for the Democrat nomination, you know?
Right. Yeah. So, plus, you know, and then what else? He was funny. You know, they had at one point, you know, they had like an announcement, a buzzer went off in the location. I'm not sure where they were exactly, but it was in Boston. And it was, you know, please evacuate. And everyone was just kind of standing there. And then somebody must have texted or something, told him, he's like, oh, don't worry, this isn't for us or whatever. So they kind of tried to continue speaking and they interrupted him again. And so he just got this Kennedy smile on his face, right? And he just like, look, he's like, nice try. Yeah. So it was good. And then he also said, you know, he goes, well, you know, it basically touched on the fact that he's ostracized from many people in the Kennedy family, right? But if you listen to him, he's the one who still speaks like a Kennedy. So anyone who has ostracized him, they've gone way left of where RFK and JFK, you know, number ones.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but anyway, he goes, but, you know, yeah, you know, with my family and, but, you know, I'm sure all of you all get along with your families all the time or whatever. There's nice. Humor. It was good. It went for, you know, 2 hours. You may have heard his other, good quote was, well, this is what they get for censoring me for 18 years. You know, now they're going to hear from me for 18 months. And it was good. I mean, the debate he picked, you know, April 18th was when, Paul Revere started his ride, right, in Boston. And then the 19th, I think, was the Battle of Concord or something. So, I mean, it was historical significance.
That was April 19th, I think, was Lexington and Concord.
Yeah, so that's the day of his speech. And the 18th was Paul Revere. And he tied that into when his
April 19th was also the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, I believe.
And his grandparents came over. Great-grandparents maybe came over. It was at the very beginning. If you find the speech now, that very beginning is cut off. It's on Reuters, has the full speech on YouTube because there were some audio issues. And so anyway, I thought it was fantastic. It's worth listening to.
Right on.
You know, to see, like, you know, let's say we don't have a primary in Michigan and you want to, you know, cross over and vote in the Democrat one. Right?
Yeah, that's something we've talked about on the show briefly. And I think it's something that, honestly, people should seriously be thinking about, considering, and perhaps even pushing for, because I'm not sure, I haven't taken the time to look it up, but there is at some point going to be a deadline when the Republican Party has to decide whether or not they take the primary. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know this until we started talking about it, but there's a provision in the law that allows for a taxpayer-funded primary, but the parties are not required to use them. And, you know, the Democrats a few months ago moved up the primary to an extremely early date for basically two reasons. One was to humiliate the Republicans and cost them their national delegates. And the other because they think in case Biden doesn't run for re-election, there might want to have an early primary. They want Michigan to be in play. Mm-hmm. And they'd probably even want Gretchen Whitmer to run for some
He's announcing on Tuesday, I believe.
Who's that, Biden? Oh, yeah, I heard that too.
Via recorded message.
It's not a surprise,
but
that doesn't mean he can't drop out.
The DNC came out and said they're not going to do any primary debates.
Yeah, I saw that too. The party of I don't know what they're a party of.
Well, look at Biden didn't, you know, he didn't campaign. Katie Hobbs didn't campaign. right?
Right.
I mean, Whitmer, I mean, she ended up doing a debate, 2 debates. Did she do 2? But
Only after voting had already started and the damage was going to be minimized. Yep.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
they've got it
So
down. They've got it down to a science as far as that goes.
So the Republican Party has an option in Michigan to say, you know what, we don't need to have an open public primary. We could have a caucus system that's all done internally, or we could just go straight to state convention and just elect our national delegates. And if they do that, a few things happens. Number one, it means that if the Democrats have a primary, we all can just go ahead and vote in it because there's nobody on the Republican side of the ticket.
We can't vote for ourselves for precinct delegate then.
No, but that's a separate primary. There's the presidential primary.
Oh,
and
you're
then
right.
There's the regular August primary. They're totally different.
Right. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we can still become precinct delegates. There's no problem there. But what are the Democrats going to do in that event? Well, their options are, they can either go with it and let us vote in their primary and make themselves look like fools for moving the primary up as early as they did. Mm-hmm. Or they can cancel it on their own and make themselves look like fools for going on a plan that we had to react to. And the only reason why the party wouldn't be smart for them to do this, their argument's going to be, well, but it'll be perceived badly that we're not letting the public vote on who's going to be the presidential nominee. It's like, well, first of all, there may not even be any kind of real contest. It's going to be a coronation of Trump one way or the other. And I mean, the only candidate who's even close to Trump's poll numbers is Ron DeSantis. He may not run. At that point, what is there? Larry Elder?
Right? What the heck is that? I know.
I don't know. I wonder. I honestly don't know. He may have some scheme that he's going to be Trump's wingman in the debates or something, or it may be just another establishment operation to try to dilute the Trump vote. I don't know. But
didn't he, when he was running for governor, things got weird. And I mean, the way he campaigned kind of ruined the chances to oust Newsom, I believe, from what I recall. Now it's been a while.
I mean, it may not have been easy anyway, but yeah, I mean, they pulled all the dirty tricks and all the,
because they basically made it against Elder versus Newsom, but I don't know, it was something weird happened back then. Dwayne has an interesting point. Dwayne Gritter, if I cross over, I'll vote for Biden. Why would I vote for a possible combatant? I mean, that kind of goes back in November, or in our primary in August, when Dems were crossing over, right? And were they voting for the most crazy or the least electable, or were those both the same? Or what I mean?
That's true. People are going to vote either which way. I mean, but I would say no. I don't. If Biden is on the ballot at all, he is the candidate that the machine wants. I'm not voting for the candidate the machine wants.
Yeah.
And certainly they have a lot of concerns about RFK. He might not be someone they can control. And there's the best book on the history of the presidential race on the Republican side is called A Choice Not an Echo by Phyllis Schlafly. And she goes through, she updated it in, I want to say 2012. And because it originally came out in 1964. And it has the history of how the establishment rigged the nominating process for the Republican Party year after year after year after year. And then finally Trump came along, and he was someone that they could not defeat, try as they did. And if you have a contest between Trump and RFK, then suddenly the establishment has no candidate within the two major parties, and that would be very interesting.
And it's all about the people, whether it's left or right, at least, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know RFK wouldn't have done a vaccine mandate, right? RFK would not have. RFK wouldn't have locked down. RFK wouldn't have done a vaccine mandate. I mean, at the end of the day,
in some ways, he's better than Trump was, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth this week between the Trump people and the DeSantis people about who locked down and who didn't. And yeah, unfortunately, the sad fact is Trump did lock down, and Trump attacked the ones that opposed it, including DeSantis, including Brian Kemp too.
Yeah, when they started reopening, remember? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he thought that was the winning play. I just want to go to this comment again on YouTube. Caleb says, I am a communist, but I see Trump as better at this point. What Biden is doing, taking us to World War III and jailing the Uhuru movement, is pure evil. I assume that's the people we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Tim Kuhn, Reagan was similar to Trump in being an outsider. I don't know if Trump's an outsider anymore, unfortunately. I mean, they still hate him, but did he drain the swamp? No. He got rolled.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say who would be better. I've gone back and forth on this. Trump, I covered the Trump interview a couple weeks ago, and he said a lot of amazing things about trying to avert nuclear war. which is in contrast with DeSantis, who at first was very good about the Ukraine issue and then immediately started backtracking. So
Right. Yeah.
we'll see. But the other thing though too, I should say, as to the left, and it's kind of the same with the hard leftists as it is with the hard libertarians, is the problem is it's a two-party country, and if you're not going to vote for whoever you think is the better candidate among the two, then it's going to be the same result either which way. As to, and I will pull up Tim's comment about Reagan. Yeah, the Reagan was another one that he was, and again, read Phyllis Schlafly's book about how they tried to derail Reagan after he became a force of nature going into the convention. They had a whole cockamamie scheme they had worked out where they were trying to make some kind of compromise deal where Reagan and Ford would have like a co-presidency, but where Ford controlled all of the important aspects of the administration, including foreign policy.
Yeah.
And somehow Reagan short-circuited his team short-circuited that by putting George Herbert Walker Bush as VP. And of course, Bush was also terrible for Reagan's presidency ultimately, but very interesting history that you can check out there.
Cool. Yeah.
I was going to ask you something else about RFK speech, because you mentioned you watched the entire thing. I made this comment, I think, last week about RFK, which is that as solid as he is on everything, he has this really bad speech impediment. And did it get to you to hear him for 2 hours like this? Is this
okay? Well, let's not mock him on that. It's a health issue.
Oh, well, I know.
Yeah, and it's
Life
called
isn't fair.
something dystonia or whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, it was actually the best I have heard him speak. So
yeah.
I thought it. I mean, maybe I don't know what he does for treatment. I read about it. A few articles after the speech, and something I read is that some people do get Botox shot into their voice box, and that helps. So I don't know if he does. I don't know if he does that or not, but that's something I read that people who have that do. And he didn't get it till he was like in his 40s, I think.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find another. I don't want to. I heard somewhere, and I don't know if it's true, so I probably shouldn't say it. But what caused it for him?
If you're asking me, I don't know the answer.
Well, what I heard was it was a side effect to a flu shot.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I certainly wish him the best. I'm just saying, I think it's a real consideration. And because it is, because people react, based on what they see and what they hear. And it's
okay, but when Trump always goes or whatever he does when he talks, like that's obnoxious too. What I'm hearing shades of Sean Hannity. What does that mean, Dwayne?
I don't know. I hope he's not talking about me. I can't stand Sean Hannity. I hope not. Will Meredith says, if it's a Biden-Trump face-off again in 24, what makes anyone think the same people who voted against Trump in 20 will vote for him now? That's a good question, Will. That's a real good question. George Gomez says, why do you just cut Nikki Haley at this point? She's more qualified if DeSantis doesn't run. More qualified how? More qualified than whom?
Yeah.
More qualified than the former president? I don't know what in the world Nikki Haley is qualified for. She was a complete airhead as governor of South Carolina. She was atrocious as a UN representative. I thought when Trump made her UN representative, it was to get her out of the governor's mansion in South Carolina. Here, go over and go be at the UN where I don't care what they say or do. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, remember, she got a lot of praise when she was like the only one vote that I don't remember what they were voting on, but she was the only one that like raised her hand voting against something that they were all doing. Do you remember that? No,
but I do not. I mean, I have some colleagues in South Carolina from back when she was governor, and they were like, oh my gosh, was she. I mean, one of the things that Campaign for Liberty was fighting in South Carolina back in those days was that in South Carolina, lawmakers didn't have to take roll call votes to pass legislation. And they had a whole legislative project to try to make it so that their votes were actually on record. And Haley was one of the people who was one of their worst obstacles trying to obstruct them in that. But anyway, enough about Nikki Haley. I mean, I don't Nikki Haley is I mean, even if the establishment threw all of their weight behind her, I don't see that going any place. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong about that, but Haley's wrong about every issue under the sun. Particular on foreign policy, civil liberties. Haley is she's your typical Bush Republican type. Claudia says, Will Meredith, because he's responding to somebody else.
Well, yeah.
Does anyone think they're about? Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. The economy is going to be a lot worse than it was at the end of 2020. So that may change things to the extent people vote for their wallets. But I mean,
They didn't do that in 22, and it was already getting bad.
Yeah, that is a real problem. I mean, the main thing that's going to make the huge difference in 2024 is mobilization, grassroots leadership, precinct leadership, people getting the word out to people in their own neighborhoods all over the country, because obviously the media is not telling people what's really going on here. Case in point, by the way, folks, you probably didn't read about this today or this week, but the Democrats in Lansing just put in legislation to ban all fossil fuels in Michigan by 2035. All of them. Coal to be phased out by 2030, then natural gas.
Awesome.
Where they think we're going to get our energy from is an open question.
Why are they so stupid?
They're going to build solar farms all over the state, which is, a lot worse for the environment than fossil fuels are. Solar cells don't exactly biodegrade. But worst of all, I mean, you can't even imagine how expensive energy would be. It would be, and which is a regressive tax. It would be nothing more damaging for working class people.
Everything they do is regressive,
Yeah. Anyway, what else has been going on this week? There's some more things I want to talk about. I know, and I've got some things written down, but now I'm having a transition problem here. Oh, I got a story for it.
Transitioning? Is that your breaking news right now?
Huh?
You said you're transitioning?
Well, you try to segue from one topic to another, but failing at one, I'll tell you, I had a very lucky day today. Everyone's fantasy came true for me today. I was driving down the street, going past, and it's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. The cross traffic had a stop sign. Woman wheels out in front of me. I have to slam my brakes. There's a cop right behind her. He saw her and pulled her over. I was like, yes, it finally happened. It finally happened. Someone who cut me off got pulled right over. So I just had to share that story.
Well, congratulations.
I got something. We have an event coming up. For those of you in Southeast Michigan, you may want to come down to the Washtenaw County Republicans headquarters this week. We're doing a screening this week of Matt Walsh's video. Let me put it up on the screen here. What is a Woman? Which I am stoked to see because I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard nothing but great things about it. His Twitter account got hacked this week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I heard he also had to hire full-time security because of all the crazy Marxists stalking him and threatening him constantly.
Who was on Tim Pool this week? Knowles? Michael Knowles? What's his name? Matthew Knowles? Michael Knowles?
Michael Knowles.
Yeah, he said something at CPAC, I think, about transgenderism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Dwayne. How you feeling? Sorry, my buddy Dwayne.
If you guys want to come, though, it's at the Washtenaw County GOP headquarters. I'll be there. It's a lot of fun. Just be sure you do RSVP. You can see the website. Go to WashtenaWrepublicans.org because we need a count for how much pizza to get. So we're doing that this Friday.
Where's the pizza from?
Costco.
Okay.
Which is quite good for the price.
It is actually, yeah. So I mean, that's yeah. Are you going to get any of their frozen custard or anything, or that'll probably melt?
No, we'll have snacks and we'll have pops and water and probably coffee and stuff too. Yeah, so we'll doors open an hour early so people can hang out and eat and chat, and then we'll watch the video. Okay. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. You can RSVP, go to WashtenaWrepublicans.org. I've been spending a lot of time this week working on Washtenaw County stuff. We just booked our Lincoln Day speaker. We've got our Lincoln Day dinner coming up Thursday, May 18th. David Barton's going to be our keynote speaker. We got the Polo Fields Country Club. So I've been doing a lot, getting things ready for that, getting our silent auction ready. So I will, I think I have to put the link on the homepage, but we just announced it yesterday.
Which one, Paula says you want to go. I'm going to the Lincoln Day thing. Yeah. And I'm probably going to go this Friday too, I think. I haven't seen that movie. So, and now I know the pizza's from Costco. So
yeah, there you go. Curtis Michael asked, will Washtenaw play Exposing the Deep State, which he mentioned earlier is a movie that he made, interestingly. So it's on his Rumble channel. I'll have to check it out. I have not seen it yet, but I will check. I will forward it onto our events team and see what we can do. This is only the second movie night we've done, so we shall see. Tim Kuhn says, Dave B is excellent. David Barton. Yeah. I noticed his Wikipedia page was unkind to him, but then I remembered Wikipedia lies.
Right.
So,
come on. Yeah.
I'll be very interested to hear what he has to say. And rumor has it there may be some other celebrities coming as well, but more on that maybe to be announced in the future. Huh?
Besides you.
Oh, please. So what else we got this week? I hate when I do a stream and realize there's something that I put in the title of the stream that I forgot to touch on. So
well, I'll go back and read. Can you read it? I can go find it.
Well, I got some notes here. Fake congresswoman attacks Matt Taibbi. Oh, that's another thing too, and that kind of I guess touched on what we were talking about earlier with
CISA or whatever. And she's like, "Sir."
Yeah, Stacy Plaskett is a delegate from the Virgin Islands, which means she's not a voting member of Congress, but she was on the weaponization of the government committee. And so this is with the hearing on the Twitter files, which is this huge hearing. Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger testified. They were journalists that went through the whole Twitter files. Yep. Democrats vulgarly suggested Matt Taibbi was a so-called journalist. He's an award-winning journalist.
I know, they're crazy.
And then Mehdi Hassan, who has like a Saturday show on CNN, or is it MSNBC? I forget which, but he accused Matt Taibbi on a show of saying something untrue in the hearing. And Taibbi kind of went along with it just because he assumed that the guy was being honest, which of course he wasn't. And turned out his testimony was completely 100% accurate. But this idiot fake congresswoman sends him a letter threatening prison time to him for having lied to Congress, when in fact he had not lied to Congress at all. It was Mehdi Hassan that lied to his audience. And the Democrats, of course, completely unthinkingly, without verifying anything, just go ahead and lap it all up. And this is to me, I think, an issue that crosses parties, because they're weaponizing everything against everybody. That a member of Congress would, without hesitation, threaten a witness at a congressional hearing with prison time, without even having a clue what she's talking about. I mean, this is the escalation as they're breaking precedent. The stuff they did to Trump, now they're doing this to everybody.
They're doing it to everyone. Yeah. Well, who did it? Was it Ron Johnson from Wisconsin? Was it Johnson when he was, who did he ask should step down? Mayorkas?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
That's what I think for Republicans, at least all I've ever seen is they should say, you should resign, sir, or, whatever, but they don't threaten not like the Dems, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for that playing by the Democrats' rule book is just going to escalate and expand the destruction of the Constitution in our society. That if we start filing groundless impeachments, and we get the idea that we're going to weaponize the legal system when we're in charge the way they weaponized it against us, that's it's a vicious circle. And it also, I think, undermines our arguments, because you can't say the Democrats abuse the impeachment process if Republicans abuse the impeachment process too. At that point, your argument is out the window, because now you've validated that this is all okay. Barry Doherty says, can you address Kalamazoo County Chair removing elected of PDs? I cannot, because I don't know anything about the facts of that or whether that's valid or not. I do know there's been a lot of controversy this past week. I'm sure you saw this.
That was what that state convention.
Going back to the state convention
article was about. Not state convention. I'm sorry. State committee meeting on the 15th was about that altercation. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that constitutes grounds for removing precinct delegates. I'm not sure there's any process. I don't think they were
removing precinct delegates. I think they were removing committee.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a different story altogether.
But I don't know, because I don't think you can just remove delegates. I don't know.
Well, I mentioned in last week's show, I hadn't been to this state committee meeting, but I'd heard about it, and I'd heard a fist fight might have broken out. And apparently that story is now in the international media.
Yeah. Fight Club. Oh my God. I didn't see that headline.
So embarrassing.
Yeah.
So embarrassing. Apparently it's not, well, I don't know.
But I mean, I don't know if that, who's that gentleman right there in the suit on the left?
It looks like Matt Hall, but it probably isn't.
No, it's not. It's Dan Wallace.
That's Dan Wallace. Oh boy.
Oh, sorry.
Well, Dan, if you want to tell us anything about what happened, well, maybe we should talk about this off the air before we put you on the spot.
That wasn't right. I'm sorry.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, look, folks, if we're in the business of saving our country, there comes a point where, personal conduct is really important, and the stuff is just, not the way you want to do things. Dwayne says, nope, removing delegates more than likely not legal.
Well, again, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't.
I'm not talking about
confirm that. I can't confirm that.
Yeah, it's just like when the Macomb County thing at state convention, like 5 hours of our lives sucked up by that, right? And I didn't know the details, and they wanted me to vote on it. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, I got another addendum from last week's show. Barry Doherty says alcohol never mixes well in politics. No kidding.
Neither does.
Yeah. Some people asked me at the very end of last week's show, they said, hey, you should see the new Michigan GOP's website. And I just kind of glanced over it. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, they got a new website. And this is it. I kind of looked at this at the end of last week. Well, then after that, I kind of, after the show ended, scrolled through in a little more depth. And there's some things about here I can't say I'm all that crazy of. This is the...
oh, God, Mackinac, you going?
This is the homepage. I don't know. We'll see. The Mackinac conference is usually interesting no matter what. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. I'll be curious to see who their guests are. They have not announced any yet, so we'll see how that goes. But then this is their homepage. So this is the top line messaging. This is what they've put front and center. And this is the first thing. Identity crossroads. For more than 50 years, Michigan has experienced the destruction caused by a one-sided relationship with countries hostile to our values. So we're talking about China. Mm-hmm. Our brightest organizations have had their intellectual property stolen. Our meaningful jobs have been outsourced, tearing apart our communities and families.
Okay, now those two things are true, though.
They are. Mm-hmm. Now we face a new generation of threats. Our kids are being controlled by influential spy technology, turning our future against themselves. Our food sources and land are being purchased out from under us, putting our greatest asset, fresh water, in danger.
All right,
the Michigan Republican Party must learn from our past, focus our attention on building the future, and renew our spirit. Well, there's two things to this.
I mean, none of that is false.
No, but also, is the Republican Party opposed to China or opposed to the Democrat Party? The first thing they talk about isn't the Democrats. It isn't. I mean, remember when Trump was interviewed and they asked, what's the greatest threat to America? He says, it's not China, it's not Russia. It's our own administration. It's the Biden regime. People are saying, Tim Kuhn asks who wrote this website. I don't know. Robin.
It's the new migop.org.
Yeah, this is just, you see the link at the top of the screen, just migop.org. This is the Republican Party's official website.
The new state party website.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's not untrue, but there's the question of priorities. And we talked about this earlier at the top of the show. The biggest problems that our country's facing at this moment is the Biden administration waging all-out war on the American people, calling us domestic terrorists, weaponizing the legal system, controlling the mass media, controlling big tech. And again, at this narrative moment, when parties are right now, both parties in Washington are ginning up nuclear war over Taiwan. This is the moment that the GOP is going to start saying, this is a good time to get tough on China right now. I mean, that to me is just, and this goes on too, by the way, in case it wasn't clear from the first part, right below that, we must stop the march of global authoritarianism. The Democrat Party, in direct partnership with China and globalist organizations, has abandoned Detroit and the working class. Together, they have stolen the identity and spirit of freedom from the once greatest city in America. And now their eyes are on Michigan. On this current path, Michigan will become the global headquarters for communist influence and power and drive Michigan into a deeper depression. Again, it's not entirely untrue, but it's also not the greatest choice of words. Not the greatest emphasis. I mean, in direct partnership with China. Now, people are pointing out, yes, it's true. The Democrats have got this bill to give, $175 million to China for this Goshen plant or something like that, which is a subsidiary of the Chinese Communist Party. And this is correct. I'm not saying that's not true. But again, it didn't take China to give the Democrat Party a problem in Michigan. And it's just like, we're talking about China, we're talking about China, talking about China, 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 China again. Curtis Michael says the World Economic Forum is going in Detroit. Well, I could mention that then. But, you know, typically state parties do state issues. I mean, talking about, you know, hugely popular, like, and, you know, using the word communism, which technically, yes, it's true. You can say the whole Democrat Party is, you know, cultural Marxists. But, you know, we just had someone in the chat, maybe they're still watching, who says, I'm a communist and I don't like Biden. Well, they're not going to like that very much, will they? You know, why don't you use the themes that tons of people can relate to? Anyway, so this goes on, and this is all fine.
Yeah. Hold on, go up a second.
Yeah. What?
One more part. What was that quote in the center?
Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
Mm-hmm.
We won't stop until all of Michigan has renewed their spirit again. Yeah. But then, you know, another thing I noticed too on the website is they have this about page.
That's exclusive of other religions, right?
Yeah, there's that. You got these leadership pages here. The county chairs, they used to have contact information for all the county chairs. They don't have that anymore. And also, all these district numbers are wrong. These are all the old districts. So it's got, you know, Washtenaw County's chair is listed as District 12. We're not in the 12th anymore.
Why do they still have James Hooper on there?
That's a good question.
And Wayne 11 doesn't exist anymore. Matt's the district chair, or Matt's the county chair.
Oh yeah, he's just not here at all.
Yeah, Matt Wilk, Wayne 6.
Oh, oops.
Yeah, Wayne 11 doesn't exist anymore, and then.
Yeah.
What has John done that? Why does that say District 12 underneath? Oh, they still have Washington on the old district.
Because they're wrong. Yeah, the district numbers are all wrong.
Come on, you guys. This is basic stuff.
Yeah, the new district boundaries were drawn like 15 months ago. I think they became official. A little late. Yeah. Robin says, I can't share it. I don't know what that means, but maybe she means there's problems sharing it on social media. I don't know. Jay Michaud says, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't think communism is that bad. I'm not sure bringing up communism will motivate people to vote Republican. Well, the thing is, a lot of voters don't think communism is really a very prevalent thing, you know? So, Tim says they misspelled Cheryl C's last name.
Wayne 11.
Oh yeah, there's a letter missing in Cheryl's name too.
Wayne 11th ceased to exist on December 31st, 2022. Robin. So that district didn't exist. Actually, no, before
2021. Yeah.
2021. No, but
well, here we can look at the new boundaries. I've got the new boundaries here.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the new boundaries right here.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is what's been our new districts for
new
a
boundaries
very long time.
In 2022.
Yeah, there's no 11th district in Wayne County at all.
Old committees stayed intact. It was confusing and actually I don't think helped our situation. The PAC has nothing to do with it. But
yeah. Wild.
We just put Paula in there on Wednesday. Okay.
in where?
On that list. Paula was on there for Wayne 12.
Oh, okay.
Paula's the county chair of Wayne 12.
Yeah. I think maybe that's all I've got for this week. I just went over my notes. Let me see if I didn't screw something up. Let me go back down here. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a quiet week in Lansing this week. Oh, I'm sorry. I've just realized I've missed some chats on Rumble. Apologies to my Rumble people. Truth Seeker says Trump left up to governors as far as being locked down. I just listened to a podcast about this. They played the edited version, then what he actually said. Well,
yeah, I mean, he did say that after, but he did criticize the Republican ones who opened up, right? He played anyway.
Yeah, hold on. I think I've got that clip, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I do. Let me just make sure I can get the audio for it. Hold on. Let me know if this if the audio's not working.
On and go. Well, I told the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, that I disagree strongly with his decision to open certain facilities which are in violation of the Phase 1 guidelines.
I would advise him not to just turn the switch on and go.
Would I do that? No, I'd keep them a little longer. I want to protect people's lives. And I went to Deborah and Dr. Fauci and other people, and they weren't thrilled about it. I think it's too soon. And I don't want this thing to flare up because you're deciding to do something that is not in the guidelines.
There is a danger of a rebound.
They can wait a little bit longer, just a little bit. If you ask me, am I happy about it? I'm not happy about it. Safety has to predominate. And I'm not happy about Brian Kemp. There are some that want to open up almost now. If we disagree with it, we're not going to let them open. But I didn't like to see spas at this early stage, nor did the doctors.
Going ahead and leapfrogging into phases where you should not be, I would advise him as a health official and as a physician not to do that.
Told him, I totally disagree.
I think that clip just looped there. Nope, there we go. So yeah, oops, sorry, Patty.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
so there's the tape. I don't know. You could say it was selectively edited, but it seems.
Well, I mean, don't you remember at all? I remember when it happened. He was criticizing Kemp. I don't need to see a tape about it. I remember what, that he was doing it.
Yeah. Emma asks, does Christina have good support from Stand Up Michigan? I saw she was at the Goshen protest. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. So yeah. And look, folks, I mean, I've said all along, I'm not picking on the GOP for the sake of just taking pot shots here. I want them to succeed, but it's like with Trump. If you want Trump to succeed, help him be better. The problem is that whenever Trump does things that are damaging, there's the huge majority of his supporters just say, no, folks, Trump's wonderful, and make every excuse in the book for him. And then he continues making similar mistakes because nobody holds him accountable for things. He would probably be better to this day if he heard some criticism from people. Bill Hamilton on Facebook says, what day is the Livingston Board of Commissioners meeting? Bill, I'm not in Livingston County. Oh, you guys are chatting in the Facebook. Okay. All right, very good. So you guys are getting that all figured out on your own.
Everyone's empowered. Everyone's working.
Yeah. It was kind of a light week in Lansing this week. Not too much new. I'll show you. We did update.
When did they pass the red flag law? Was that this week or last week?
That was the week before.
Nope. I'm sorry, I'm behind.
I did. Oh, something about the red flag. I did notice some gun groups are, I think it's Michigan Open Carry, is suing about the fact that they didn't get any time to testify in committee or not enough time to testify in committee. I would be shocked if that lawsuit goes anywhere. I do think they should challenge the constitutionality of the law, period. And I could think of no better plaintiff in Michigan than Lucas Gerhard, the student whose gun rights were taken away for years based on a fake complaint called into the university that destroyed his whole college life. So we'll see. I don't know if anything like that is in process, but I would not get your hopes up on the lawsuit about them not getting enough speaking time. I mean, the reality is this was the way legislation's been passed year after year after year. I have no doubt the Democrats tried the same play when we passed right to work in 2012, and it's going to probably get the same result in the courts. So there's that. But anyway, I did want to mention, let me pull up the Rescue Michigan site. We are once again up to date, as we are after every weekend, on the new bills, the new votes. Not a whole lot of new bills this week, but you can take a look at them. Here they are. Just go to view bills, and it's the ones with the highest bill numbers. So there's all of these here. Will says, what about the Goshen money that barely passed the Senate Appropriations Committee last week? Currently, we only have the roll call votes on floor votes, but we will at some point have committee votes as well. Charles Schott says, Spirit of Detroit quote on the wall behind it.
Oh, that's probably what, okay. That's explaining why the quote that's on the GOP website, maybe.
Gotcha. But I did want to let everybody know, we've talked about this before, and I will continue to beat this drum. The number one thing that's going to save our country is precinct leadership. People knocking on doors in their own neighborhoods, keeping track of who the conservatives are, getting them involved, getting them engaged, building precinct leadership teams, everything you guys want to do, whether it's election integrity related stuff or being able to, make sure that your candidates win in your precinct, whether it's for school board or state house or U.S. Senate or the presidency, you have to be able to have a group of people that's going to connect with voters over an extended period and build this narrative. So if you don't already know, at rescuemichigan.com, if you register and log in, you can order the voter file for your precinct. It's got tons of information in it, and now it actually does have the 2022 election history, which currently you can get that when you download the complete voter file. So if I log in here and go to voter lists, there is an option to download the complete voter file, and it'll be in there. I'm going to update the tools on the website so that they also have 2022 vote history in there as well. And so, yeah, the lists are very up to date, very current. They have everything from phone numbers to scores from 0 to 100 on how conservative they probably are. Tons of information on that. Anybody who's ordered a voter file, by the way, we've gotten all of them out to everyone. I think I still am behind on sending some people emails to let them know that their lists are in and installed, but they all are. And I'm going to be monitoring that more carefully this week because we're going to do a big promotion this week trying to get people to get their voter files. Jay says, does access to the voter file expire after some period of time? No, your access does not expire, but when people get voter files, I just order them. I don't have them handy. So they will just decay over time because voters will move away and then more elections will occur. So if you got a file like more than, say, a year ago, you might want to order an updated version. I think the best way to do that is just to hit the contact button on the website and just drop me an email and let me know if you need to order an updated voter file, and I can order them for you. But you won't lose access on our website. It's just that those of you who ordered a file over a year ago, you don't have the 2022 data. And so I got to order it again. So there you go. I think that's about all I've got for this week. Anything else? Anything in the chat? Yeah, Hans on Rumble says RFK voice is hard sometimes, don't hold against, but makes communication tough. He also asks, what are your thoughts on Vivek Ramaswamy, like him as an outsider business person and is not eligible for Medicaid yet? By the way, folks, when I'm looking up like that, it's because I've got multiple screens I'm working with here. So I have to look away to get to the Rumble chats. I don't know what to make of Vivek Ramaswamy yet. It may be he's trying to run to be a wingman for Trump, or maybe he's just trying to run to be, I'm better than Trump, and maybe Trump will get indicted and convicted, and then I'll be the new Trump. I don't know what his play is, so we'll see. I kind of take him to be like, what's the guy's name? Andrew Yang, was it? The Democrat?
Oh yeah.
The guy. I feel like his take is kind of like that. I saw him on Glenn Greenwald's show. I reference Glenn Greenwald a lot. It's a great program for two reasons. One is it exposes the weaknesses of Democrats to their own base. The other is exposes the weakness of Republicans to the opposing side. So it's always worth tuning in. But he had Vivek on a couple weeks ago, and his answers on foreign policy were just complete, utter gibberish. And his take on most of the rest was just like, I'm like Trump without being Trump. So I don't know. I have a problem with a lot of the people running for president who are just untested. You know, it's really easy to say anything in the world when you've never had an elected office, don't have any voting record, and just say whatever you want. Bill Hamilton asks, can I order a voter file for an entire county? Yes, you can. Send me an email. I can get a quote for you. They get a lot cheaper by the precinct, depending on how big the county is. And I think, if I recall, you're in Lapeer. I don't know how many voters that is, but I can find out. I've seen counties run anywhere from 200 to 1,500 or something, depending on how big. I think Wayne's even more because it's really big. But the more voters that you order, the lower the unit cost is. So it gets quite a lot lower over to, depending on how big your county is.
You see Barry's comment about people dropping off of school boards. What are they saying? People are resigning. Boards get to choose a replacement. I don't know. I actually ran to be one of those replacements a few weeks ago. I haven't heard of a mass resignation.
You haven't heard of a mass resignation, but yeah, people are getting fed up with these constituents coming out and talking about all of the radical transgender stuff going on. And
can you put the school districts in the chat, Barry? I haven't heard any.
Well, I know the Milan School Board did. We had a resignation. But right, then the school board just appointed.
This sounds more recent. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to winning elections. I mean, you might get someone, appointed somehow, but what's this? Boards replaced with, I don't know what that word means. Oh, now he says Rochester and Oxford. Yeah, well, good. I mean, I remember the Rochester School Board was notoriously vicious. even I think getting someone who complained about their agenda in the schools
Well,
fired from their jobs.
School superintendent is on a medical leave.
Mm. But yeah, I mean, people need to recruit candidates for school board, no question about it.
The superintendent. Oh, hold on. Okay. I don't know. I just heard about the superintendent. I didn't hear about school board members resigning, but.
Yeah. I mean, I would, in a heartbeat, make up a flyer, say, this is what's going on in our schools, hand it out all over the district to people, let parents know, because parents don't know, but they can find out. And the greatest asset we have is the transparency, that these meetings are open, and they're trying to go after that too. Trying to target people for the crime of sharing their public record videos and all the rest of that stuff. Dwayne says boards are required to fill a vacancy in 30 days. Yeah, and he says, and Barry says, but boards choose the replacement. Right. Well, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to an election. So, resignations are great, but as you say, the majority is going to fill them with the same kind of people anyway. So you got to run them. You got to run them in the election.
Yep.
All right, folks. I think that's about all I've got this week. So hopefully we see you at What is a Woman? Playing at the Washington GOP headquarters this coming Friday, and at our Lincoln Day, which is coming up. It's Thursday, May 18th. I'll be sure to post that to our county GOP website tonight as well. So that's all I got for now, folks. As always, thanks for all you do for liberty. Until next time.